She was just a child, small, quiet, and hopeful. But when she walked into that classroom, every eye turned away, every seat stayed empty, and every whisper carried the same cruel message. She didn't belong. Not because of who she was inside, but because of the color of her skin. What no one knew was that this little girl was about to reveal a truth so powerful, it would shatter their silence forever. The question is, why did it take her pain to finally make them see? Set up, it started like any other morning. Little Maya clutched her backpack, the straps worn but sturdy, and hurried down the cracked sidewalk toward school. She loved learning, her notebooks filled with careful handwriting and doodles of dreams bigger than the small town she lived in. At home, her mother reminded her daily to be brave, to hold her head high no matter what. But inside those school walls, bravery often wasn't enough. Because while other children laughed in groups and shared their secrets, Maya often found herself sitting alone. And on this day, she was about to learn just how deep that silence could cut. From the moment Maya stepped through the classroom door, the air felt heavy. Children turned their heads, glanced at her, and then just as quickly looked away. Not a single hand waved her over. The teacher smiled politely, but when it came time for group projects, Maya's name was the last to be called. Desks scraped, chairs shifted, and yet again she sat alone, eyes burning, heart pounding. She told herself she was used to it, but deep down she wasn't. No child should ever be used to being invisible. Days turned into weeks, and the silence only grew louder. When she raised her hand, answers seemed to vanish into the air, as though her words had no weight. When she walked down the hall, whispers trailed behind her, quiet enough that no adult could hear, but sharp enough to pierce straight through her. She tried to convince herself it didn't matter. She tried to pretend she didn't notice the way they pointed at her skin, the way they acted like her very presence was something to be tolerated. But then came the moment she would never forget. The billionaire's daughter entered the room. Her family name was spoken with awe, her father's face often appearing in glossy magazines. But the girl herself carried a secret weight. She was deaf, her world quieter, harsher than anyone around her could understand. At first, the class greeted her with curiosity, but it wasn't long before the novelty faded. Soon the children ignored her too, speaking over her, laughing in ways she couldn't catch, mocking her silence. Maya watched, stunned. For the first time, she realized the cruelty wasn't reserved for her alone. And in that moment, she faced a choice. Stay quiet like she always had, or step closer to a girl who, despite her father's power, was just as alone as she was. She hesitated, fear holding her back. What would happen if she stood beside the billionaire's daughter? Would the stares, the whispers, the rejection grow even harsher? Or would something else begin? The answer was coming, but not yet. For now, all Maya knew was that her next step could change everything. The classroom buzzed with laughter, but none of it belonged to Maya or the billionaire's daughter. A boy at the back waved his hands clumsily, mocking sign language, and the room erupted. The girl's face crumpled as she tried to hide behind her book, her silent world echoing with cruelty she couldn't escape. Maya's chest tightened. She had felt that sting too many times herself. The urge to stay quiet battled with the fire rising inside her. Then, without thinking, Maya stood. Her hands began to move, slow, shaky at first, then steady, fluent. The room froze. The same kids who ignored her now stared in disbelief as Maya spoke the unspoken language, reaching into the silence where no one else had bothered to go. The billionaire's daughter lifted her head. For the first time that day, her eyes lit up, not with tears, but with recognition, with relief. Maya had given her something no wealth could buy, connection, but instead of admiration, the classroom broke into a storm of whispers. Some sneered, others rolled their eyes, and a voice muttered loud enough for all to hear. Of course the black girl would side with her. They're both broken. The words hit like a stone, sharp and cruel. Maya felt every gaze pressing down on her, daring her to shrink, to retreat back into silence. This was the moment they wanted her to fold, but she didn't. She kept signing, stronger now, louder in her silence than any of their taunts could ever be. And in that fragile, defiant act, the entire room shifted, because the cruelty could no longer be ignored. The question was, would anyone have the courage to finally stand with her? Or would she and the girl remain two voices against a sea of silence? When the final bell rang, the classroom emptied quickly, laughter spilling into the hallway as if nothing had happened. But inside that room, something had changed. The billionaire's daughter stayed close to Maya, her eyes shining with gratitude that didn't need words. For once, Maya wasn't invisible. She was seen, not just by one person, but by everyone who had tried so hard to ignore her. The whispers didn't vanish overnight. Prejudice doesn't dissolve in a single moment. But that day, a seed was planted. A truth had been exposed, that silence isn't harmless and cruelty hides in plain sight. Maya's courage revealed it, and in doing so, gave others a choice, to keep looking away or to finally stand up. Years later, people might forget the names of those classmates. They might forget who laughed, who stayed quiet, but they would never forget the girl who refused to let silence win. And that's the weight racism carries. It's not always loud, not always violent. Sometimes it's the subtle exclusion, the whispers, the looks that cut deepest. This story isn't just Maya's. It's a reflection of countless lives, of children and adults who endure being unseen every single day. The question is, how many more will it take before silence is no longer an option? Because real change begins the moment we decide not to turn away.